Welcome to the Frugal Frau. I'm Sukey, your host. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a rustic mallet. And as a matter of fact, it is going to be this very mallet. But before we get started, please like, subscribe, and comment, and ask your questions in the comment section too. It helps us out and we really appreciate it. So let's get started. I went out to the woods earlier and I cut down this sapling for myself for a handle. And now I'm just measuring to see about how long I want to have that handle on my mallet. This is going to be a pretty heavy mallet, so I just want to have it long enough to counterbalance that. Now, the business end of the mallet is just a round of gnarly firewood that never got split, and I stole it off the firewood pile. I marked my length with a utility knife and cut a little notch in so that I can catch my saw blade in there to make it a little easier to saw. So I quickly just sawed this off. It didn't have to be perfect or even perfectly straight. Next I have to get all the bark off, so I'm just going to use a draw shave to shave all the bark off around the entire length of the handle. I just had my leg up on that bench because it was making it easier for me to draw the shave through the bark. Next, I am marking the end of the log round that I want to use as the business end for the mallet. I am positioning it so that the longer edge of this not so round edge will be furthest from the handle. And now I'm going straight through the middle and marking that with an arrow in that direction. I am going to have to drill a hole for the handle, obviously, but first I need to flatten the area out where I intend to drill the hole. So I'm just going to flatten, an inch or inch and a half wide area on the side of the mallet. And I actually am doing this perpendicular to the line that I marked, which is not facing you, but it's facing me. I am using a large jaw shave to do this. Next, I am drawing a line from the center line I already marked on the far edge across the entire length of the side where I just flattened it. And then I'm going to find the middle. And once I find the middle, I'm going to make a small cross across that line so that I can center my hole that I'm going to drill for the handle. Sorry about that. I was just starting to have a little bit of a coughing fit. The hole has to be drilled through the entire diameter of this mallet head, and I'm just using the impact driver to do this with a 1 3/4 inch paddle bit. And I am following the line on the opposite end that you can't see that I marked earlier. Next, I'm elongating the hole from the end that I'm going to stick the handle in, and I'm doing this on the business end direction and the opposite business end direction. And this is because I'm going to put a wedge in the handle to help secure it. The diagram shows the blue arrow pointing from one elongation to the other. I used a scrap piece of wood to measure the distance through the diameter of the business end, and I'm marking that plus extra on the end of the handle that is going to go through the hole, and that is so I can shave just that part of the handle to snugly fit into the hole. I mark this around the entire circumference of the handle to make my life a little bit easier when I start shaving this. Now I'm using a smaller draw shave than I used for peeling the bark to shave down to that diameter. And this took quite a bit of finessing and quite a bit of time. At this point, I've already tested it 1 or 2 times, and I am just finessing the very end of it to make it draw into the hole a little bit easier. And there was a little bit of a knot at the top, and you can see it was grafing me a bit. Here I decided to go ahead and remove some of the cambium that was still left over from when I peeled the bark. Here I'm just showing how I'm lining up the handle so that I can take advantage of a slight curve in it for ergonomics. And I had marked all of that earlier. And my little drawing to the right in the screen shows exactly how I did that. Now this is another test fit of the handle, and I have tight areas, and I need to shave those off. So I'll just put those back in the vise and start shaving. For the final fitting, I switched to a spoke shave to shave it off and make sure that it was a little bit closer to round to fit better in that hole that I drilled. Once I got to a point with which I was satisfied, I took this out of the vise, and now I am marking a line perpendicular to my alignment line, and this is because this is where I'm going to cut a slot for a wedge. So the pencil line at the top that you see was the excess that sticks out when I test fitted this. And now I'm going to mark approximately 2 finger widths down into the part of the handle that will be concealed within the body or head of the mallet. And this is where I'm going to cut to and then drive my wedge into. To keep my saw straight, I'm cutting a little notch out on the edge of that line, and that also helps me to get the blade sawing into the wood without it bouncing around too much. Next, I am drilling a small relief hole into the bottom of the slot that I cut for the wedge. This will keep the wedge from splitting the handle further down. Next, I cut my wedge from a scrap of wood by just sticking the draw shave into the top of it and pounding it in and making a very narrow piece. And previously, I already shaved this little block down to the right width so that it would match the diameter of the slot that I cut in my handle. Next, I'm just using a small bench knife to taper the end of this wedge so that I can drive it easily into that slot that I cut. I am now completing the assembly of the mallet and driving the handle through the head of the mallet. I turned it over and secured it in the vise so that I can now drive my wedge into that slot that I cut. I'm using the impact driver to drill out a hole with a countersink so that I can place a screw also into the handle, and that's just a little extra security. You could do this with a dowel, but I didn't have the right size dowel and I didn't feel like making one, so I just used a screw. Besides, I need my mallet right away because I just broke one that I had for a couple of years, and I have garlic to plant. Now, I am driving the screw in. At this point, I'm just going to saw off the excess that's sticking out the other side. And this will complete what I need to do to make this a usable garden mallet. Well, now I'm outside and it's quite nasty and cold out right now, but I have to get my garlic in, so first I need to pound in the sticks. So, this is the first time I've actually used this mallet. That looks like it works pretty well.